August 4th, 1981, Balmoral Castle, 7:23 p.m. Princess Anne stood at her bedroom window, watching the television crews pack up their equipment after covering Charles and Diana's honeymoon return. For 31 years, Anne had been the hardest-working royal, the no-nonsense princess who put duty before glamour. She had earned respect through decades of dedication to her charities, her equestrian achievements, and her unwavering commitment to the crown. But in just 4 months, a 20-year-old kindergarten teacher had stolen everything Anne had worked for. The press called Diana a breath of fresh air, while describing Anne as stuffy and outdated. The public adored Diana's shy smiles while finding Anne's directness harsh and unfriendly. As Anne watched her new sister-in-law wave to crowds with natural grace, something dark and bitter took root in her heart. This wasn't just sibling rivalry. This was war. But what Anne did next would make Diana's life a living hell for the next 16 years. The seeds of hatred. July 29, 1981, the wedding that changed everything. On Charles and Diana's wedding day, while the world celebrated the fairy tale romance, Princess Anne was experiencing her own personal nightmare. As she walked behind Diana's 25-foot train in Westminster Abbey, she could hear the crowd's rapturous cheers for the bride. "Look at her," someone whispered. "She's like a real-life princess from a storybook, so young and beautiful and kind. She's going to modernize the monarchy." Anne had heard similar whispers about herself. Exactly never. For 3 decades, Anne had been the dutiful daughter, the hard-working royal, the one who never complained or sought attention. She had represented the Queen at hundreds of engagements, supported dozens of charities, won Olympic medals for Britain. Her reward? Being called horseface by the tabloids and the royal no one cares about by the public. Now Diana, who had done nothing except marry well, was being hailed as the savior of the monarchy. The injustice burned like acid in Anne's chest. After the ceremony, Anne overheard a conversation that would haunt her for years. "Thank God Charles didn't marry someone like his sister," a guest said. "Anne's so stern and unfriendly. Diana will bring warmth to the royal family." Yes, finally a royal people can relate to. Anne's always been rather intimidating. That night, Anne made a decision that would poison the royal family for decades. Diana had to be destroyed. But Anne's campaign wouldn't be crude or obvious. It would be surgical, psychological, and devastating. The campaign begins. September 1981, death by 1,000 cuts. Anne's first move was to establish herself as the expert on royal protocol, positioning Diana as an amateur who needed constant correction. At Diana's first family dinner at Balmoral, Anne publicly corrected her etiquette. "Diana, dear, one doesn't hold one's fork quite like that at royal functions. Actually, Diana, the proper way to address the Queen's equerry is, 'I'm afraid that's not how we do things in this family, Diana.'" Each correction was delivered with a patronizing smile and a tone that suggested Diana was a slow child who needed guidance. But Anne's real genius was in making Diana feel excluded from family traditions. When Diana asked about Christmas customs at Sandringham, Anne replied, "Oh, those are traditions for people who've been in the family for decades. You'll understand eventually, maybe." When Diana tried to contribute to discussions about royal duties, Anne would interrupt, "Diana, perhaps you should focus on learning the basics before offering opinions on complex matters." When Diana expressed interest in taking on more charitable work, Anne was dismissive. "Charity work isn't about good intentions, Diana. It's about expertise and commitment, things that take years to develop." Every comment was designed to make Diana feel like an outsider, a pretender, someone who didn't belong. Don't miss this shocking detail, how Anne turned the palace staff against Diana, the staff rebellion. October 1981, poisoning the well. Anne's next move was brilliant in its subtlety. She began undermining Diana's relationship with the palace staff by positioning herself as their protector against Diana's unreasonable demands. When Diana asked for her bedroom to be redecorated, Anne told the staff, "I know Princess Diana's requests seem extravagant, but we must remember she's very young and doesn't understand how things work here." When Diana wanted to change her daily schedule, Anne confided to the servants, "Poor Diana doesn't realize that royal life requires discipline, not constant changes to accommodate her moods." When Diana requested different meals, Anne sighed to the kitchen staff, "I'm afraid Diana comes from a very different background. We'll have to be patient while she learns proper royal standards." Each comment was designed to make the staff see Diana as difficult, demanding, and out of touch with royal traditions. The strategy worked perfectly. Within months, palace servants were rolling their eyes at Diana's requests and gossiping about her airs and graces. Meanwhile, Anne positioned herself as the reasonable, experienced royal who understood how things should be done. but Anne's cruelest move was targeting Diana's confidence, the confidence destroyer. November 1981, psychological warfare. Anne discovered Diana's deepest insecurity, her intelligence, and began a systematic campaign to exploit it. At family gatherings, Anne would steer conversations toward topics Diana knew nothing about. "Diana, what's your opinion on the Common Agricultural Policy's impact on British farming subsidies?" "Diana, as patron of several charities, surely you understand the complexities of charity law regarding tax exemptions." "Diana, I'm surprised Charles hasn't discussed the constitutional implications of the sovereign grant with you." When Diana couldn't answer, Anne would smile sweetly and say, "Oh, don't worry, these things take time to understand. Not everyone can grasp complex issues immediately." Anne also began publicly praising Diana's other qualities, in ways that highlighted her intellectual limitations. "Diana is so lovely and sweet. She may not understand policy matters, but she has such a kind heart. Diana's greatest strength is her natural warmth. Academic pursuits aren't for everyone. Diana connects with people on an emotional level. Some of us use our minds, others use their hearts." Each backhanded compliment reinforced the message that Diana was beautiful but stupid, kind but shallow, popular but intellectually inferior. You won't believe what Anne did when Diana's popularity continued to grow. The media manipulation. 1982-1985, the press war. When Diana's popularity reached unprecedented levels, Anne realized she needed to change tactics. If she couldn't destroy Diana privately, she would have to destroy her publicly. Anne began cultivating relationships with royal correspondents, particularly those who had been critical of Diana's modernizing influence. At carefully orchestrated private dinners, Anne would share concerns about Diana. "I worry that Diana's approach to royal duties is rather unconventional. The monarchy has traditions for a reason. Diana means well, but she doesn't seem to understand that royal work requires substance, not just style. I'm concerned that Diana's need for public attention is overwhelming her sense of duty." Anne never directly criticized Diana. She was too smart for that. Instead, she planted seeds of doubt about Diana's commitment, competence, and character. The strategy worked. Soon newspapers began running articles questioning whether Diana was too emotional for royal duties, whether her popularity was going to her head, and whether she understood the serious side of royal responsibilities. Meanwhile, Anne began positioning herself as the antithesis of everything wrong with Diana. Where Diana was emotional, Anne was rational. Where Diana sought publicity, Anne avoided it. Where Diana modernized, Anne preserved tradition. Where Diana was spontaneous, Anne was disciplined. But Anne's masterpiece of manipulation was yet to come. The charity competition. 1985-1987, the ultimate rivalry. Anne's most devastating move was turning Diana's greatest strength, her charitable work, into a competition Diana couldn't win. When Diana became patron of AIDS charities, Anne increased her work with Save the Children, positioning herself as helping innocent children, while Diana helped people who made poor choices. When Diana worked with homeless organizations, Anne expanded her prison visiting program, presenting herself as someone who dealt with real problems, while Diana focused on trendy causes. When Diana's landmine campaign gained international attention, Anne began working with refugees, claiming that helping survivors was more important than publicity stunts with explosives. Most cleverly, Anne began using her decades of experience to highlight Diana's relative inexperience. "I've been working with Save the Children for 15 years. It takes that long to really understand the complexities of international aid. My work with various charities has taught me that sustainable change requires patience and expertise, not just good intentions. After 30 years in royal service, I've learned that effective charity work happens behind the scenes, not in front of cameras." Each comment reinforced the message that Anne was the serious, experienced royal while Diana was the shallow celebrity. Don't miss this explosive moment, what Anne said about Diana that crossed every line, the private cruelty. March 1987, the cruelest cut. Anne's private cruelty toward Diana reached its peak during a family dinner at Windsor Castle. Diana had just returned from a successful charity visit, and was excitedly telling the family about the people she'd met. "The children at the hospital were so brave," Diana said. "One little boy told me." "Diana," Anne interrupted coldly, "we don't need a detailed report of your afternoon. We all do charity work. We just don't feel the need to perform about it." Diana's face flushed with embarrassment. "I wasn't performing, I was sharing." "You're always sharing, Diana. Every charity visit becomes a performance. Every child you meet becomes a story. Every photograph becomes a headline. It's exhausting." The room fell silent. Even by Anne's standards, this was brutal. "I care about these people," Diana said quietly. "Do you? Or do you care about how caring makes you look?" Diana's eyes filled with tears. "How can you say that? Because it's true. You've turned charity work into entertainment. You've made helping people about helping yourself feel important." Prince Philip tried to intervene. "Anne, that's enough." "No, it's not enough." Anne's years of suppressed resentment exploded. "I'm tired of watching this family get destroyed by someone who thinks royal duty is about being popular instead of being useful." Diana ran from the room in tears. But Anne wasn't finished destroying her sister-in-law. The final destruction. 1987, 10 years of systematic destruction. Anne's campaign against Diana intensified after Charles and Diana's marriage began to fall apart. Anne saw Diana's vulnerability as an opportunity to deliver the killing blow. When Diana's bulimia became public knowledge, Anne told family members, "I'm not surprised. Diana's always been weak-willed. Eating disorders are about control, and Diana's never been able to control herself." When Diana's affairs were exposed, Anne was unsympathetic. "Diana's bringing scandal to this family because she can't handle the responsibilities of royal marriage. Some people aren't suited for this life." When Diana gave her famous Panorama interview, Anne was furious. "Diana has betrayed everything this family stands for. She's put her personal drama above the monarchy's reputation. She's selfish and destructive." Most cruelly, when Diana's relationship with her sons became strained due to the divorce, Anne told William and Harry, "Your mother is going through a difficult time. Sometimes people make poor decisions when they're emotional. You mustn't let her problems affect your royal duties." Anne was positioning herself as the stable, reliable royal, while Diana spiraled into personal chaos. The tragic victory. August 31st, 1997, Anne gets her wish. When news of Diana's death reached Balmoral, the royal family's reaction was shock, sadness, and uncertainty about how to respond to the public's grief. Anne's reaction was different. According to sources present, Anne's first words were, "Well, that's that problem solved." When staff members expressed shock at her coldness, Anne was defensive. "I'm sorry Diana is dead, but I won't pretend her death is a tragedy for this family. She was destroying us." During the week between Diana's death and funeral, while the royal family struggled with unprecedented public criticism, Anne remained unapologetic. "The public will mourn Diana because they saw her as a victim. But we know the truth. Diana was destructive, selfish, and damaged. The monarchy will be stronger without her." Anne had finally won her 16-year war against Diana. But victory would taste bitter. The hollow victory. September 1997. The price of hatred. In the weeks following Diana's funeral, Anne discovered that destroying Diana had also damaged everything she had tried to protect. The public's anger at the royal family's cold response to Diana's death extended to Anne personally. Her reputation as the hard-working royal was replaced by perception as the heartless aunt who had never appreciated Diana. William and Harry, now aware of how their aunt had treated their mother, became distant and formal with Anne. The relationship never recovered. Most painfully, Anne realized that Diana's death had made her more popular than ever. The woman Anne had spent 16 years trying to destroy became a saint, while Anne became a symbol of everything cold and cruel about the old monarchy. The truth revealed. Princess Anne's jealousy of Diana wasn't just about popularity or press coverage. It was about a woman who had dedicated her entire life to royal service, watching someone else receive praise for simply existing. Anne had earned respect through decades of hard work, but Diana had earned love effortlessly. Anne had mastered royal protocol, but Diana had mastered human connection. Anne had served the monarchy faithfully, but Diana had transformed it. The tragedy is that both women were valuable to the royal family in different ways. Anne's dedication and Diana's compassion could have complemented each other. Instead, Anne's jealousy turned them into enemies. Anne's 16-year campaign against Diana succeeded in destroying her sister-in-law's confidence, isolating her from the family, and contributing to her emotional breakdown. But it also destroyed Anne's own legacy, turning her from a respected royal into a cautionary tale about the dangers of jealousy. The lasting damage. Anne's war against Diana didn't just damage two women, it damaged the entire royal family. The hostility between the sisters-in-law created factions, divided loyalties, and poisoned family relationships for decades. William and Harry grew up watching their aunt systematically undermine their mother. Their eventual decision to distance themselves from royal duties and criticize royal treatment of Diana can be traced directly to Anne's behavior. The monarchy Anne thought she was protecting was weakened by the very actions she took to defend it. Sometimes the greatest threats to institutions come not from outside enemies, but from internal guardians whose love becomes destructive. The ultimate irony. The greatest irony of Anne's story is that she got everything she thought she wanted. Diana was gone. Anne's position as the hard-working royal was secure, and the modernizing threat to royal tradition was eliminated. But victory felt like defeat. Anne had won the war and lost everything that mattered: family relationships, public respect, and her own peace of mind. Today, Princess Anne is remembered as a dedicated royal who served her country faithfully for decades. But she's also remembered as the woman who tortured Diana out of jealousy. Some victories cost more than defeats, and some jealousies destroy the person who harbors them more than the person they target.